Welcome to New Life Live, the premier place to receive free advice from Christian psychologists and counselors for the mental, emotional, relational, and spiritual challenges you face. Since 1988, we've offered compassionate responses that combine God's truth with proven psychological principles to guide you toward healing. Our phone lines are open. Call us now at 1-800-229-3000.
We are going to help so many people today on New Life Live, and we are so grateful that you are calling in today. My name is Brian Perez. We've got Dr. Jim Burns, the founder of Homeward here, as well as Dr. Sheri Denham Keffer. She's a doctor of marriage and family therapy. How you guys doing today?
Great, now that I'm with you two.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Always good to have you guys here.
Yeah.
Sheri, what's on your mind to begin our program today before we get to our calls?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on anxiety. There's a premise in Ireland when it comes to emotions that they say anxiety has fallen upon you. So instead of saying, I am anxious, when we say I am anxious, it's possible that we might actually be making anxiety our identity. I am anxious. Just saying I am anxious. It becomes our identity instead of the idea that anxiety has fallen upon you. I want to explain why worship music is actually a powerful intervention for anxiety, when anxiety has fallen upon you. Do you know that all anxiety, and this is according to Dr. Russell Kennedy, who is an MD and somebody who specializes in anxiety, believes that all anxiety is separation anxiety. All anxiety has to do with separation. Okay? So if you are anxious and you're feeling separated, what we often do is we start thinking about why I am anxious. And we go up into our thoughtful brain instead of our emotional brain. We go up into the thoughtful brain. We start thinking about all the reasons that we're anxious about a situation that we're in. Now, the situation that we're in, it could be with somebody you know, somebody you love at work, and they're challenging. But when we lose touch with who we are and our capacity to make choices and decisions, and we lose touch with whose we are, as far as being attached and not separated from God, we fall further into feelings of anxiety. Now, we have this strange thing. It's called the vagus nerve. It actually starts from the top of our, actually from the lower part of our brain, all the way through our spinal cord, all the way down to our tailbone. We sit down and our vagus nerve travels like a superhighway. Well, this vagus nerve actually goes through our vocal cords. I was just listening to somebody speak recently and was hearing that she said that because that vagus nerve goes through our vocal cords, whatever we say or when we worship or when we draw on scripture that grounds us into truths of who God is, we quiet down. We can actually slow down and quiet that vagus nerve by worshiping.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? So we have a switch inside that we can turn off by attaching to our heart, attaching to who we are and whose we are. And so if anxiety has fallen upon you, I want to just have you do a scientific experiment. Put on some worship.
Yeah.
Begin to sing a worship song that you love. And I would imagine that your vagus nerve will begin to quiet down. And you did that. You have the ability to take charge.
I love that. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with your phone calls. Kay, Lynn, Doug, Diane, Julia, you're all coming up here on New Life Live. We can't wait to talk to you.
Early on, looking at pornography that went into affairs, massage parlors, strip clubs with buddies. Before you know it, you're ashamed of that.
Every day, men struggle with sexual integrity, impure thoughts, strip clubs, affairs, pornography.
My wife got a phone call, and she asked me who this person was, and man, how do I get myself out of this one?
For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity and purity through their one-of-a-kind Every Man's Battle Intensive.
When she said to me, I want you to look at this website named Every Man's Battle, she had me look, and I said, no, this is exactly where I need to be. This is exactly the problems I have, and I'm gonna go.
You don't have to struggle any longer. Get help in Denver, Colorado, June 6th through the 8th. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE to register or to find out more. 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com. Use the discount code NLL to save $50. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Okay, we're going to go right to Kay, who is in Washington, D.C., listening on WAVA. Hello, Kay. Thank you for calling in to New Life Live. Are you there, Kay? All right, let's find out where Kay went. Instead, we'll go to Lynn, who is in Dallas, Texas, listening on KWRD. Are you there, Lynn?
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, how can we help you today?
Hey, well, I just wanted to say something really fast about what you were just talking about with anxiety. And I've had anxiety my whole life. And just this last week, I started to feel those feelings come again when I was just cleaning my house. And I said to myself in my head, I have anxiety again. And then I felt convicted by the Holy Spirit to say, no, you do not have anxiety again. Stop saying you have anxiety.
Wow.
And start saying you have the Holy Spirit. And then he put a song right in my mouth. And you know what the song is?
What?
He had me start worshiping him in my kitchen. And as soon as I started to worship, the anxiety fled like a thief.
Oh, I want to cry.
Telling you what.
I want to cry
Yes,
because the
and
Lord
that
brought it
song,
to you.
The Lord told me. He was like, and I told myself this thousands. Oh man, here comes anxiety. I have.
Oh no, hold on, Lynn. We're losing your call. You're
Coming in and out.
Oh.
I don't know if you're driving or if you can safely pull over so we
I
get
am
you.
driving. Yes. I'm driving through the country roads right now.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, right now we can. I just don't want to lose this call.
Okay.
I'm getting anxious here, so help me. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. What was the worship song you
just
listened?
wanted
We lost it. What was the worship song that the Lord brought to you?
It was, our God is an awesome God, He reigns. I'm
Yep.
not a good singer, but you know
No,
that
you
song.
are. That's
I love that.
beautiful. Yeah,
Lynn
he grounded
singing
you.
on New Life.
Yes,
and it
yes.
worked, right? God made us amazingly complex, and He has the path, and He brought it to you. I love it. The Holy Spirit's a great
sometimes it's
counselor.
a new worship song. Sometimes it's something from 30 years
yeah,
ago.
Lynn
like
has an
Our
old
God is
worship
an
song
awesome-
there,
yeah,
but
yeah.
Phil Wickham has just come out with a new
Yes,
Our
yes.
God is an awesome God.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
Keep those vocal cords going,
Yay.
girl. The Holy Spirit knows
Yeah.
what we need.
We all
That's
learned
right.
about the vagus nerve, which I'd never heard of. I thought it was something about gambling, but I guess it's not.
Yes.
Polyvagal theory. Polyvagal theory.
So how can we help you, Lynn?
Okay, so we moved to Texas a few years ago. We got planted in a church right away. It's been good. It's been really good. Overall, no church is perfect. We know that. But recently, we started to see some red flags over like the last year, maybe year and a half. And some of those red flags are my husband and I were convicted of, okay, we need to start tithing. You know, we don't have a ton right now, but we're going to start tithing and we're going to start, you know, just trusting in God. And so one of the things is, you know, we wanted to kind of see their budget. We wanted to know how they're spending their money. And so I asked for a copy of their budget. And I emailed, well, it took about 6 weeks for me emailing or calling the office once a week. I try not to be too crazy, but I was trying to be persistent, get an answer.
Oh, they're going through something. We're losing you again. But it looks like what we have on the screen here is how do you handle your church, this church that you're going to now that's secretive about their finances and who the elders are? Is that basically your question, Lynn?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So hopefully we won't lose you, but let's go ahead and dive into the question.
Well, I think she's asking the right question. If we're going to be a part of a church body, we need to know basic things.
Yeah.
A church is a nonprofit. They actually have to reveal the budget. I mean, it should be public knowledge.
Yeah.
And if that's not, then that's at least a yellow flag. And I've worked in mega churches. And that would be they should do that with transparency and openness. Or then what's hard about that is if they don't, then are you going to trust the other important parts of a church? And then if you don't know who the leadership is and how the leadership works, then you can't make good decisions about going there or not going there. If they continue to do that, Lynn and her husband may need to have a conversation and say, here's what we like about this church, but here's not what we don't like, and maybe find another place.
Yeah.
And no church is perfect. Lynn said that, but it's very important, I think, that we find a church that has integrity. The Bible says this, that the person of integrity walks securely, but I'm convinced that we as people in the church, if the church is a church of integrity, then we will be secure with our pastors and we'll be secure with the ministry and we'll be secure giving the money that God has called us to give. She was talking about finances. So I think she keeps working. I mean, I wouldn't keep emailing. I would sit and ask for a conversation with one of the elders or with the pastor and say, she has a very friendly attitude about it. So she's saying, can we see it? We're wanting to understand it. If they say no, that would almost be, if Kathy and I were in that situation, we'd probably say, no, that's a flag we can't live with. Certain things in a church you just have to live with.
Yeah.
A church is like a family. It's goofy.
Really quick, let me just ask before we go to Sheri. So how much of a disclosure? Like, is it going to give specific, this is how much the senior pastor makes, this is how much the associate pastor makes? I mean, is it like specific, or is it just overall like budgetary, here's what we spend on overhead?
Right.
What are you looking for?
There is a budget that shows everything.
Okay.
But most budgets in a nonprofit, so I have been the president of a nonprofit for 40 years, so most budgets, and we just show everything, But most budgets will just lump everything together. So nobody wants to look at line items, and especially it's a mega church. My goodness, that would be hundreds of pages.
Yeah.
But it might say staff, and then if they have a deep need, they can know that. I mean, in terms of where I work, I mean, I'm working in a nonprofit now, but it's just like a church.
Yeah.
They can know what I make from that church. That's very fair for them.
Yeah.
And you want a church that's a church of integrity with their finances. I would say that's one of the most important things. You show me what people do with their finances in families and individuals, and we'll talk a lot about where their integrity is. So I don't think she can be secure if she doesn't get the information she's looking for. And she had the right spirit about it. Sometimes we're just goofy about this. What is this? What we have reasons for the budget for silly reasons. She didn't have that.
Right.
She just wanted to know. They were going to start giving, and they wanted to know more.
Yeah.
So go for
Sheri.
it. Or consider moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the word integrity. That's a huge thing, Lynn. The thought that came up, especially because they won't even let you know who their elders are, right? You're not even sure who those people are. That's just common, that there's an elder board who's governing the pastoral board, right? And the leadership. And they're usually business people and people that, you want them to have integrity too. But who knows what's going on? I want to bring in a term that I would have you do a little bit of research on. It's actually called integrity abuse. So what happens if there's integrity abuse that's happening in the workplace or in this church? Let me just share with you some of the common types of integrity abuse behaviors that go on. Denial or obstructing you from getting the information you need. Defensive distortions, so doing things that are going to make it harder for you to get to the truth. Psychological manipulation and gaslighting. So if you go in and start to ask them and they put it on you and your husband, like, why are you guys poking around so much? Is this, do you do this at other churches, or why are you calling like this? If they put anything on you, that's gaslighting. Lying by omission, not telling you what the financial status is or who the elders are, that's integrity abuse. Externalizing blame or victim blaming, domination, power, and control tactics. So we don't think about the fact that this very priceless gift of integrity can actually be turned upside down and be weaponized and used to hurt people because people are hiding stuff.
Right.
And, we see churches all the time that are strong, and we see churches that fail because of the leadership and what's going on behind the scenes. So I'm glad you're picking up on it. I want to say, Lynn, trust your intuition. And your husband, trust his instincts. And don't walk a step further down a path that you don't feel safe inside.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Would Trust be a good book for
absolutely.
Lynn and her husband?
That would be a perfect
that's
book.
great.
We're going to send that to you, Lynn. Thanks for calling in today to New Life Live. And look who's back. It's Kay. Are you there this time, Kay?
Yes, I'm
Yay.
here.
So glad you called back. How can we help you?
I have a 19-year-old and a 13-year-old, but we are going to focus on the 19-year-old. I'm a single parent, and my son has had a lot of challenges over the course of his life. He's in his senior year, and he has become extremely irresponsible this year. Although he has displayed that, for most of his life. But the senior year in particular, it's almost as he's reluctant to move ahead and start with career, college, or whatever it may be that he desires. And so he's missing a whole lot of days in school. He's failing classes where it's becoming to a point where he may not be able to graduate with his class. So he most likely he will have to graduate in July to if he takes his credit recovery courses.
Yeah.
And so I'm at the point where I want to just leave. I want to move ahead with my life. I'm 51, and I've sacrificed all of my years to take care of my children. And he doesn't respect that. He always says I don't do anything for him. He mocks God, mocks my faith. He's often, to me, disobedient, disrespectful. He doesn't respect boundaries. Every time I set rules, he will try to go around it some kind of way to not adhere to him. And so this has taken a toll on me. And I could see it reflects on my younger son,
right?
Who I have to teach him a different way and say, don't make these kind of decisions
right.
and choices. And so it's become where sometimes me and my younger son, we're become argumentative because he sees the friction between me and his older brother.
Yeah.
So it's chaotic in my home, and I'm going to God like, God, believe in peace. I'm focusing on you. But how do I live amongst people who allow the enemy to use them? And then the enemy is, I can hear the enemy. I see
right.
him in them. And although the fruits of the Spirit has taught me over the years about patience and sacrifice, and I love my son so much, but he refused, his heart is hardened. He refused to give up that hardness in him. And
yeah.
I just want...
Well, we're coming up to our break, Kay, so Sheri, let me have you jump in for about a minute, and then we'll come back if we have to.
Yes, okay. I wish I could just wrap my arms around you. You sound so tired and overwhelmed beyond. And I can understand why you said, I want to leave. I want to leave. I want to move forward with my life. I am the mama bird. And I got these two baby birds, and one of them's 19, and it's pecking me in the face. I either want to kick this bird out of the nest or I want to fly out of the nest, but it is not feeling good for me right now. And so we want to take some time with you to unpack what you can do right now. Because it sounds like your son is self-sabotaging. And I don't know if he's self-sabotaging because he's actually afraid of spreading his wings and developing into his own person, or is he sabotaging so that he can stay in your nest because he feels like you're going to leave?
All right, we're going to leave, but we'll be back in a couple of minutes here on New Life Live.
I was stuck. I was so stuck. 27 years married. My husband addicted to pornography for the majority of our marriage. I was very isolated and didn't really know which way to turn.
If you've been affected by betrayal, an emotional or physical affair, or pornography, Restore Intensive will equip you with support and tools to help you through.
When two people want to do their part, we can be restored. But if they don't, we can still be restored. We are not stuck because someone else made a decision. That God lets us weigh in on how we want to walk out our life. Our wellness does not hinge on another person's decision.
The Restore Intensive is coming to Washington, D.C. November 7th to the 9th. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50.
You guys helped me figure out what was going on.
1-800-NEW-LIFE and the discount code NLL.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery. And one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
And let's go to Dr. Jim Burns to hear what he has to say for caller Kay from Washington, D.C., who's dealing with a 19-year-old, and she's just trying to, like Sheri said, either kick him out of the nest or fly off on her own. I mean, what do you suggest?
Well, Kay, for one thing, I am tired listening to you because that was not tired of you talking, but just tired. In the sense of you've got a weight on your shoulder. Mm-hmm. And the hard part about a 19-year-old, because he is an adult, is you can't want it more than he wants it. And so when we have that phrase in our mind, that we can't want it more than he wants it, we're going to have to make sure, like you talked about boundaries, but he wasn't taking care of his boundary. He was just busting through the boundaries. One of the things that I would say is if there are boundaries, there are also consequences with boundaries. And you may have to rethink that because he should have some consequences for breaking through expectations and boundaries. So I'm going to suggest that you help him create an action plan for responsible adulthood. What would that look like? And I don't know you use that phrase, but what's the action plan for responsible adulthood? Because, well, for one thing, he is an adult. He's 19, even though he's still in high school. But how do you help him get there? And sometimes experience is a better teacher than advice, and you're going to have to give him tough love. Here's tough love. Tough love isn't being mean to your son. Tough love isn't hitting him, yelling at him, screaming at him. Tough love is allowing the consequences of his poor choices to happen. And that's probably how this kid is going to learn. So I hate to say it because we want mama birds, and I loved how you talked about that, Sheri, but mama birds, they want their kids in the nest and they want to take care of them, but you may have to allow him to not graduate, have to go through that process because we learn from that. And a lot of kids are like that. They learn from, their mistakes. So I think you show love, but you show a tough love. And that's hard for mama birds because, again, we want to, rescue them. But he may need to if he breaks a boundary that you've agreed upon, if he breaks that action plan. And I'll just tell you, I don't know that sometimes we can't do that alone, especially you're a single mom. And single moms, there's an extra, there's just an extra part on your shoulder that, is tough. And so maybe this is where you get a counselor and you say, hey, we want to create a conversation. The counselor might use the word contract, but we want to create an action plan to help him toward responsible adulthood. What does that look like? And then let him help create it. And when that happens, then if he breaks it, now you can show the mama bird love. I'm so sorry that you broke this because that actually what that means is, and then you tell him what the consequence is. But I would go a step further. I think that can help you. Boundaries help mamas and their adult sons make better decisions. And boundaries aren't, they're guardrails for helping him make good decisions. But let him be a part of some of that discussion. And if he will, I can't say he always will, but if he will be a part of that discussion, then you're going a long way to helping him become that responsible adult. Stay in the story.
So maybe we can send her the book Boundaries. Is
Sure.
that? And the other book I'd like you to just order and get online is actually called Parenting with Love and Logic for Teens. And it's based on what you just said, Jim, which is choices and empathy. It's when you get into power struggles, and especially with teenagers, you can just be, knocking heads with each other. But Parenting with Love and Logic helps you formulate how to begin to involve them, like you said, Jim, with choices that they're going to be making and empathy when they actually fail. And that feels very different than just, locking horns together or beaks or whatever you want.
And they'll give you very practical ways to do that. Foster Cline and Jim Fay are both amazing people. They wrote that book. And they will give you actually kind of almost a principle, but then a plan to do what I just said.
Yeah.
And I recommend that book to anybody and everybody too.
Yeah, great.
Again, the title is?
It's called Parenting with Love and Logic for Teens by Foster Cline and
Jim Fay.
Yeah.
Okay. And Jim Fay's an educator. Foster is one of the great psychotherapists in the country.
Great.
There's also a book for younger kids, if any of our other listeners have younger kids who need some help with discipline. And that's a very popular book as well. Same
Parenting
title.
with Love and Logic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Kay, thanks for calling in today. We're almost to our break, but let's at least hear, where is Diane in Dallas? Welcome to New Life Live. How can we help you today?
Hi there. I had a question on how to manage, I guess, maybe deal with the emotions that I feel for my feelings in general. I'll tell you what it's all about. I lost my 29-year-old son. He died in his sleep unexpectedly.
Oh, no.
It was a medical condition. And
so sorry.
So he had just celebrated his 29th birthday 2 weeks earlier. And he was just one of the loves of our lives. He wasn't our only child, but he was the baby. And he was just, did everything right. We told him he was probably the favorite if you had to say one. But, of course, we always said that after he was passed. But he did. He did everything right. He was my friend, my husband's friend, everybody's friend. Nobody had a bad thing to say. In fact, his friend said at the funeral, you didn't eat bad fruit when you were around Nick. Everybody ate good fruit. Wow. Anyways, he died unexpectedly. And when we were shocked with that. And so we had to go out to another state to claim his body and close down things in his life. Mm-hmm. But we weren't there. And when we did get around some of the few people that were close to him, a close friend came to us and said, look, I don't know how to tell you this, but Nick was going to come out and tell you about his gay lifestyle. And we thought, no, he wasn't gay. Never. He never alluded to it. Never,
Yeah.
That wouldn't have been, he would have been the last person you thought was gay.
Mm-hmm.
He had a great, anyways. Then other people knew about it, And
Yeah.
it sounds like you're going off to a break.
We are, unfortunately, but don't hang up. We'll come back to you, Diane. But yeah, so grieving the loss of her 29-year-old son and then finding out all this news and she being like the only person not knowing about it. How does she deal with it? We'll talk to Jim and Sheri about that when we come back.
We've been married 33 years. We attended the Intimacy and Marriage Workshop. Even though we've read books or attended a few other marriage weekends, this was certainly different and a lot more intensive than initially that we thought.
When you come to Intimacy and Marriage, you're going to be immersed into a 3-day process.
Was not really sure exactly what to expect, but the idea of learning to really understand intimacy was intriguing. We had been in the same patterns of struggle over and over again.
If you've thought, I don't think we can ever change, we're just in this rut and we can't get out, the Intimacy and Marriage Workshop can help you get out of the rut.
The Intimacy and Marriage Weekend is July 25th to the 27th in Washington, D.C. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50. 1-800-639-5433.
I would highly recommend it.
Club New Life changes lives.
I think I go way back to listening to New Life, learning so much from it, and then becoming a Club New Life member.
Club New Life is a monthly giving family that helps New Life Ministries provide Christ-centered hope and counseling resources to thousands of people.
You know, I'm so thankful because you know why I keep giving? Because I keep learning, and I'm so thankful for all the lives that you touch every day and the people's lives. So when I get to still hear the radio show, it's just so encouraging to my heart.
When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, you'll make a difference in the lives of individuals and families with godly counsel and connection to help.
And you know one reason I give? Because I feel like sometimes I'm hiding behind a counselor's couch listening to all this great information and not paying. So my guilt of this great advice is alleviated by being a Club New Life member.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. And together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
And let's go back to Diane in Dallas, who just gave us the news, devastating news. She lost her 29-year-old son, and then she found out that he was living a gay lifestyle, and she didn't know this, and people told her, and now she's wondering how to deal with everything, not just the loss of her son, but finding out this news. What do you say, Jim?
Well, you know, Diane, I feel your pain as you shared, and then as you added the extra part of the gay lifestyle. I think the process for you is going to be the same, and I'm so sorry for your loss. And really, it's kind of a double loss. Because I work with adult children, I hear a story similar to this a lot. Sometimes it's not the story that, you know, and they were gay, but then you find out other things after the death of because you're suffering from the death of and the loss of this, you know, beautiful young man. And, you know, I want to remind you that the shortest verse in the Bible, we always kind of laugh about this, but it's Jesus wept. And I think if Jesus weeps at the death of his friend, that he weeps for you and he weeps for, you know, the trauma that your son was going on. But I just want to say this. I would do some work in the area of grief. How long has it been since he's passed?
5 years.
5 years, okay. So the 5 years means, you know, you're still obviously going through the grief. There was emotion when you were talking with us. I would get help in grief, and it's just an added part of it. Is I started to say an added bonus, but that's not the right word, of course. But, you know, an added part of your grief. You're going to have to do the grief work that, you know, your son was living a lifestyle that you didn't know about. That doesn't change the way you love him. That doesn't change your you know, the friend you talked about him being, you know, kind of the favored, you know, youngest. Of course, I'm a youngest, so I always thought I was the favorite with my parents. My brothers hate me saying that. But I think you're going to have to do the deep work. And so when you do work with grief, and it's a process, and it's kind of like an onion peel. You're just going to think you're doing better because you've been at this for 5 years, and then, you know, something is going to hit you. But I would do the work with a therapist, and I would try to work through my grief issues, period, of losing a beloved son. Any mom, the heart of a mom, I'm sure was shown. And then also the added part is dealing with his lifestyle issues. I don't think it's separate. I think you're going to have to combine it in terms of your grief. That's my thought. I'm curious to know what Sheri would think.
I want to ask you a simple question that may not be a heart simple answer, but Diane, what's the greatest hurt and loss in your heart knowing that your son was gay and didn't tell you? What's kind of swirling there inside that just breaks your heart?
Okay, well, he was raised as a Christian. He accepted Christ when he was young, and from that moment on, he was on fire. He was involved in our worship and wrote worship music. He also wrote secular music, but it was more love music, you know.
So what I hear you saying, just because of time, what I hear you saying is that the greatest loss is that he was really strong in his faith. And so how can my son, who was strong in his faith, loved Jesus, came to faith, be gay? And are you struggling over where he's at eternally, or are you settled in that? I
struggle over that.
Okay, so that's where I would have you go. I would have you fly into the heart of those questions and at the mercy seat of God to begin to just cry out over who he is, who he was, what you've now found out about him, and then his faith. And what a complicated unraveling. Yes. I would say what you have, in addition to what Jim said, is complicated bereavement. Because you're wrestling on such a deep and wide playing field. One thing I would suggest you think about doing is doing some EMDR, which stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing. It's a special type of trauma that helps get into the heartstrings, and it actually helps you feel. It helps you cry and grieve over things. EMDR is kind of sneaky. It goes in through the side door when you're doing the work, so that if you're defended against crying or wrestling with something really deep, EMDR helps you to do that. And you can stay on the line, and we'll hook you into a therapist in your area that does that. That could be one of our new life counselors. And I want you to find someone who's either certified or a consultant in the art, because you need someone to help you walk that out.
Yeah.
What about the grief workbook?
Yeah, that's
her?
what I was thinking. The life recovery workbook
yeah,
for grief.
Yeah. So much heartache.
And you said the word so well, complicated bereavement.
This is complicated bereavement.
Yeah, and so it's going to take longer.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Before freedom comes pain. And you may have to face that. You're going to face that if you
grief on top of grief on top of grief. It's Diane, thanks for calling in today here on New Life Live. Here is Julia, who's in Philadelphia, listening on WFIL. Hi, Julia. Thanks for calling in today.
Thank you for taking my call. I have been struggling. I have a 12-year-old granddaughter, and on various occasions, I have noticed her taking things. Perhaps I was standing back in back of her, and she would just look at something, and then that would disappear.
Are you talking about in your home or at a store, shoplifting? What do you mean?
When she was much smaller, it happened in the store, so we returned to the manager, and she returned those items and apologized. But now she's older. That happened maybe she was like 4 or 5. But now it happened in my home. It was not in front of my eyes. But one day you see it, and then she was at home, and you don't see it. But my concern is that she's at her friends' homes, and then that friendship drops.
Yeah.
So it concerns me, and I cannot really discuss this, or I don't know how to discuss with her mom, because she has been accused of stealing, and even one time she was arrested. So if I just mention something, she would say, why do you find everything wrong with her? So I am almost like on the fence. I want to deal with it the right way before things perhaps move forward in the wrong way.
How long ago was
But I
your
just don't-
How long ago was your daughter arrested for the stealing?
I think about 3 years.
3 years, okay. And does her daughter know about this?
It happened before when the daughter was with her. It happened maybe 6 years ago.
Okay.
When she was at the supermarket and that happened.
Okay.
And I think police came.
So your granddaughter was with her mom when her mom stole, and she saw that. And, oh my goodness, which was a trauma event, right, for your granddaughter. And it was also a trauma event for your daughter who got caught, right? Which, you know, it was a good thing, even though it was painful that your daughter got caught. You know, Dr. Jim was talking about natural consequences that happen. But it sounds like your daughter still has a lot of shame about being caught and arrested for stealing. Is your daughter involved with her daughter? I mean, or are you seeing her more of the time? Because I'm just wondering, this granddaughter could be reenacting what her mom did as a way of identifying with mom, a way of bonding with mom, maybe a way of trying to want to be caught, or boundaries, or somebody seeing her. Like, she might be feeling like she's not seen, she's not heard, she's not known. Because for her to do it right under your nose with things that you own, there is something going on, that she's got a wound in her heart that she's trying to fill with stuff. It would be so interesting, you know, I almost want to challenge you to do something, and this might sound crazy, but I want you to go find a beautiful little trinket box, like a heart-shaped tiny jewelry box, maybe one that you would go and find it at the store. And then I want you to put a note inside of it. Are you comfortable sharing your granddaughter's first name?
I'd rather not.
Okay. So let's just say her name is Sonia. So you go buy this beautiful trinket box, and then I want you to write in your handwriting, "I love you, Sonia," and put it inside of that. Now, when she takes that, that's a good thing, because then you'll have something to begin talking to her about. It's like setting up something that's going to start a conversation. But your granddaughter needs to be seen, heard, and loved, and we'll talk more when we come back.
Yeah, we got to go to break, so stay where you are. We'll come back to you here on New Life Live.
Do you need help for life's hard situations?
My husband recently said he wanted a divorce.
I'm confused on what I should do.
I have an eating disorder.
New Life Live answers your questions on relationships, grief, addiction, trauma, anxiety, and much more, all from a biblical perspective with our panel of professional counselors and psychologists.
I learn a lot from your program.
You help so many people.
I appreciate your ministry.
Whether you listen or watch, there are so many ways to connect with us to ask our panel of counselors a question. Call us Monday through Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific at 1-800-229-3000 to ask your question on New Life Live. Or go to newlife.com/radio for other ways to get your question answered.
I'm trying to find help.
I just want to know how to set boundaries.
If it's a sin, what am I supposed to do?
Need a therapist or a coach, a resource, or an intensive? Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. For over 35 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addiction, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
I found a counselor through New Life Ministries, and it's just been outstanding.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His
is.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first steps toward genuine spiritual and emotional healing, call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door for a better tomorrow.
To get someone that's competent, that's good at what they do, it's been like day and night compared to what I've had before.
Call 1-800-639-5433. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
And back to Julia in Philadelphia. You still with us, Julia?
Yes, thank you.
All right. So what do you think of what Dr. Sheri said about buying a little trinket and setting it up somewhere in your home, and then your granddaughter, if she happens to swipe it and opens it, sees the little note that you left inside. What do you think of that?
I think that's a really terrific idea. My thought is that she might open the little box, read the note, and put it back.
Okay, she put it back on where it belongs, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and she might, because she doesn't want to be found out. But it could start a conversation, whether she takes it and puts it back or just takes it. I want you to really go look for something that you think she'd want to keep. And I know it probably sounds like I'm setting up a snare. It's not a snare. It's more like a lure. It's like a fishing lure. I love to fish. I'm a big game fisher. I catch marlin. So I'm looking at it more like a line and a lure, because you're really trying to catch her, but to talk about issues of her heart, because I really think she's trying to fill her heart. Like, all this stuff has to go somewhere. I don't know where she's hiding it. I don't know if she's hiding it under her bed. As a kid, do you know the first thing I stole? I stole something. I stole from church. The very first thing I ever stole was from church. And it ended up being lamb chops, the puppet lamb chops. And there was a lot going on in my life and in my home, and there were some things that were lacking. And the teacher would use lamb chops to talk, and I just fell in love with this puppet. And so I lifted it. I stole it from church. Well, guess what? I hid it under my bed, and I got found out. I got busted. So then my mom took me back to church, and they gave me, I had to give it back, and then they gave me a paper bag puppet. It was the stupidest thing ever. Like, what a horrible replacement. But what was going on in me, I think, wasn't nefarious. And I think so often when it comes to stealing, we can look at it as just like this cardinal sin. Like, oh my goodness, she's going to end up in jail. And here I am. I ended up on a radio show talking about that I stole from church, the very first thing. And I was younger. I was probably about 6 years old. And so I want to have the opportunity to hear from Jim, but, does your daughter live with you? I mean, your granddaughter live with you, or does she live with her daughter and you care for her full time? Or
I not full time, but I see them daily.
Daily. And they live at a different location?
Yes, close by, but different locations.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And are you kind of co-parenting with your daughter? Sounds like your daughter's had some trouble. Would you?
I'm filling in.
Yes. Okay.
There's no father involved.
Understand.
Of the children, so I'm filling in.
Yeah. Well, I like to call your situation, you're in the messy middle. What I mean by the messy middle is that your daughter isn't really on the same page as you with the stealing, and yet at the same time you have a deep love and a concern for your granddaughter, and you're trying to figure out what to do with this. And it's always hard with that, Julia, because literally the person in charge should be your daughter, and it doesn't sound like she's on the same plan as you. So this is where you're in the messy middle, where your daughter kind of confronted you, saying, well, when you brought this thing up. With your granddaughter, I find that a lot of times grandparents can actually have some of the better conversations, and the kids may be more honest with them. And so I think you do what...
That's so true.
I think you do what Sheri was talking about, but I think you also, in a moment of not in the heat of the battle, not after she's stolen something or it's missing, but just say, hey, put your arm around her. Maybe it's over a you're having an ice cream together and say, you know what, I want to ask you a question. How do you feel when you've stolen something? And if you've done something like what I loved about Sheri, I didn't know she was a thief. Now, but
there's redemption for us.
Yeah,
there's
I stole
redemption.
candy at the local candy store. I mean,
I
we've
still
done that.
have lamb chops. I bought one for myself.
Yeah.
I was going through some stuff yesterday, and I found them.
You found lamb chops?
Or not yesterday, but this weekend, and I have them.
Yeah.
I still have my lamb chops puppet. I
The
wouldn't
one you
bought
bought,
one.
not the one you stole.
Not the one I stole.
Okay.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
bought one for myself. Which you guys probably think I'm really weird. Now I'm really
No,
telling
hey,
you.
I like lamb
I
chops.
was-
I
no.
could see you liking lamb chops.
But there was something missing in me.
Yeah. No.
And
and so maybe sometimes like that.
Yeah.
And maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But Julie, I bet you your granddaughter absolutely loves and adores you. She knows you love her and your likability, so she's going to be drawn to you. So I think sometimes you say, hey, when you stole that, how did you feel? And what were you feeling? And really, honestly, kind of get in that way. And then you say, if she said, I felt bad, I felt some shame. Well, why don't we work on something together, just you and me, and we'll try to work on this and let's get a plan that you don't do that stuff. And then again, so there's some responsibility. If you steal, then here's going to be a consequence. If you don't steal, then here's going to be a positive consequence. See what I'm saying? So let's do it for 3 weeks and have her report to you or something. Now, if this behavior continues, then she at 12 needs an assessment, because obviously you don't want her growing up stealing things. And so that means that then with your daughter's permission, your granddaughter may need to get a little bit of counseling to understand what's the story behind the story, because there's a story behind the story. Mm-hmm. At the break, Sheri and I were talking about this, and we were saying, there's a story behind the story with your granddaughter. Is she trying to somehow connect with her mom because she had this traumatic experience or whatever? We don't know, because the beauty of counseling, and the Bible's very clear, where there's no counsel, the people fall, and the multitude of counselors there is safety. So with a counselor, they can help you dig at this. But you're in the messy middle, so you're going to have to play. And the messy middle is never easy, because the messy middle means you want to love on your granddaughter. You want to, in some ways, do some of the parenting that your daughter may not be doing, and she's got a tough thing going. But you also have to respect that your daughter is the primary parent in this, whether she's doing the perfect job. I don't know any grandma or grandpa, including moi, who's ever thought that our kids are doing the perfect job in parenting. Our grandkids, right? So. Be aware of your messy middle, but you might be the one who connects. I find that I have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, and then I've got younger grandkids too. But the 9-year-old, I have these amazing conversations, and my daughter will say, I can't believe that James talks to you, Dad, in a way that he doesn't talk to me. He tells me his secrets. He tells me, things like that. Well, it must be because I'm grandpa, and, my daughter, I'm throwing her a little bit under the bus, but she's a mom. So she's going to go, hey, you shouldn't do it that way to that teacher, or you shouldn't. And I just kind of listen, and I just put my arms around him and go, I love you so much. You're amazing. And I don't know that that's a smart idea, but have you ever thought about this? And James is my buddy. You can do that you can be that person in your granddaughter's life.
Do we have a resource from the newlife.com store that we can send to Julia?
I think How We Love Our Kids.
Okay.
Because there's been some hurt. She might be trying to fill a father wound. She might be trying to take control over something she has no control over. So How We Love Our Kids, I think, would be a really good resource for her.
Well, very good. Okay, Julia, stay on the phone and we'll get your address and we will send you a copy of How We Love Our Kids from the newlife.com store. Now, remember, when you give to New Life, you're helping people connect to Christ-centered help. For some, like this listener, the radio program is what helps them. They wrote, I've been listening to New Life Live for years and donating when I can because they are top-notch Christians who've proved that modern psychology and Christianity do have a real place together. You've helped me so much. We love hearing stories like that because we really love helping people come out safely on the other side. Make your gift online at newlife.com or by calling 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And if New Life can help you get through life, by all means, get in touch with us. We would love to talk to you. We will be here again next week, and we will converse about whatever it is you're going through. Stop struggling alone. You don't need to. Call into the radio program, and we can put you in contact. We can put you in touch with somebody who can help you there in your local area. We can send you resources. And take a look at the newlife.com store this weekend and our video library. So much help that we can give you there. Thank you all for listening to New Life Live. We'll see you at church on Sunday. God bless.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com. Please join us again on Monday for New Life Live.